In earlier three classes, which 2 hours each, I spoke about analyzing an algorithm and different asymptotic notations and how to find time and space complexity given algorithm to you, and you have been asked to find a space or time complexity on that. Basically, we spoke more on the time complexity part of it, which is being asked very generally in a lot of interviews. And then we saw what kind of questions comes from mathematics part of it, bit magic or bitwise operators, right? And then arrays we discussed in detail. And today we'll be, I think, searching also we okay. So yeah, I was talking about that what we had discussed so far and what we'll be discussing today. We had completed a couple of things in our earlier classes, and today I will be talking on the sorting part of it. Okay. Let's not waste time because I have a lot of things to cover today. So let's directly jump to the sorting part of it. So here we have, this is in full screen mode. I hope the screen is visible to you guys. So today we'll discuss about insertion sort, merge sort, quick sort, selection sort, bubble sort. So I won't cover in detail about the selection sort and bubble sort because these are all the very simple sorting techniques. Maybe I will just recap on that, and mostly I will be talking on more on the insertion sort, merge sort, and quick sort. Okay, and there are some other sorting algorithms like radix sort and tim sort, cycle sort, which are very rarely used, and I haven't seen like examiners asking in exams. Mostly quick sort will be asked in lot because that is the algorithm which is very efficient and being used in most of the like applications and all. That's why that is being used. Okay. What is the basically being used in the quick sort? So that makes it is different over other algorithms. Okay. So let's start with it, and let's start with the insertion sort. Insertion sort is basically a comparison based sorting algorithm. Okay. So what is done here is that we have a the array is being sorted in such a way that lefts, like one side we have a sorted array and another side we have a unsorted array. You start with the first element and mark that as an sorted array, and then you have a remaining element as an unsorted array, and then pick one of the element in that, or starting from the first in the unsorted array, and then put it in the sorted set and make that itself as a sorted. Basically what you are trying to do is that you are trying to pick an element and put it into its right place. Okay, for example, it is kind of playing a card deck game. Okay, cards you are playing, and then you pick a new card, and then you see that what was that number and where it can be placed. You have a holding already some set of cards, right? And then you pick a new card, and then you saw that okay, this card belongs to some place. You cannot keep at the last or at the beginning, so you need to insert at the right place. So that is what is being used here in insertion sort. I will demonstrate this with very small example, or we are going through one case where we'll discuss in detail. Okay, maybe that is more clear for you. As an algorithm, how it works. So as I explained, right, we have two sets. One is a sorted set and unsorted set. Let's assume that the first element itself is a sorted set. So what you're doing, you're starting with the second element. So here I'm going till array.length. So that means the last element. So starting from the 0. So now here what I'm doing, I'm assuming that the first element is the sorted. Okay. And I'm starting from the second element and going till the last element. Okay. And what I'm taking that as a key. That means the element to be sorted, the first element to be sorted. And the J, what is my element is the first element, which is in the sorted set. So what I'm doing is I'm basically comparing and placing that element, okay, the key element into the right place in the sorted set. For example, let's say I have a 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So if let's say 3, 4, 5, something like that elements I have, okay. And then I pick the first element and made it that make them as a sorted, and pick the second element and see that you need to make, like let's say 4 is already there in the sorted set. Now you pick the 2 element. Now you have to make the left the sorted array in such a way that the element 2 is properly placed. For example, it cannot be placed after 4, it has to be placed before 4. Okay, so then after the completion of this while loop, right, your element will be like 2, 4 in the sorted set, and unsorted set will be remaining elements. Okay. Let's see with the example, because this then I will explain with reference to that example. Okay, let's see you have this has a given array where elements are unsorted. So you can see that the elements are not properly sorted, they are all unsorted. So what you do, right, you start with the 7. Assume that 7 is a sorted set. Okay, so 7 is a sorted set and remaining elements are unsorted. Okay, so first element is sorted and remaining elements are unsorted. Now what you do is you pick the first element, that is your key. So if you see here, right, the key will be the first element, not first, second element actually. It is not zeroth element, it is the first element. First element is this one, 2. This is zeroth element, this first element. So what you do is 7 is already sorted, assume 7 is already started, and your item to position is 2. So you picked a key as a 2. Then what you do, you basically compare with a sorted set. Basically what you need to do is you need to place 2 in a such a way that after placing the 2, right, the sorted set will be still in a sorted way, in a sorted, right, it has to be sorted still. So basically 2 has to be placed before 7. So what you do, you basically compare. Okay, so compare 7 with 2, and you realize that okay, 2 has to come before the 7. So what you do, you place 2 in the 7th place and 7 has to be copied into the place where from where you have picked the second element, or the slot which is available on the next in the sorted set. So after this you will have 2 and 7, and then next iteration you will pick the 8. Okay, and then 8 again compare with the 7, and you realize that uh, it is not less, right, it is greater. 7 is less, so 7 is at the right place. So what you do, 8 you place in the same place, because you no need to go and compare again with the 2, because you know that this set is already sorted, right, and you are comparing with the last element, and if the last element itself is less, that means that the remaining elements are even lesser than that, right? So you don't need to go beyond, and you place that element in the same place. Now you have a 2, 7, 8 as a sorted, and the remaining elements are still unsorted. Then again you pick the fifth element, this 5 as a key, that is the fourth element, and then again compare with the 8. Now you realize that 8 is greater, right, 5 is less than that. So you know that 8 has to come after 5. So what you do, right, you place 8 at the 5th place, and then you compare 7 with 5, and then again you realize that 7 is also greater. Then you place 7 in the next set, and then compare 2 with the 5, and then you realize here that 2 is less. So now you got the spot here. Okay, this is the right place that 5 can place. Once you place, so you will have this is as a sorted set. Now the interesting point is with 1. Okay, so you start comparing with 8, and then 8 is placed, 7 is placed, 5 is placed, and then 1 is compared with the 2 is compared with 1. And then you realize that there is no further elements here. Okay, the 2 is the last element. So what you do is you stop here, and you copy 1 at the first place, and 2 is moved onto the next slot. So basically you have something like this. So I hope so far the algorithm is clear. So once you pick the 6, right, 6 will be placed here, it goes and sits here. Again 3 is placed, and this is the right position for 3. 4 again same thing, 4 is placed here. So end of the algorithm you will have sorted set something like this. Okay, I hope the algorithm is clear. Do you want me to, if any doubt, like I can just go through it once again, but I hope it's not that complicated one. It is pretty simple one. So let me recap again. You start with the assume that the first element is already sorted. So you start with the second element and go to the last element and pick the first element into that unsorted array as a key, and then you place that element, right, key element into a proper place in the sorted set, so that after placing your sorted set will be still a sorted. Okay, and then again you do similar thing for picking one by one. So basically what you are doing here is like you are not going beyond the 0th position, and you are checking with the key. If it is greater, then basically you are copying and you are moving. Okay, that is what you are doing. Once it is done, if it is element is not great, you realize that the element is less, right, then what you are doing is j plus 1th element you are putting the key. So I think this is how it is. So for example in this case, noise. So okay, so if you see the algorithm here, right, so this is what it is. So can you just guess what is the best case time complexity here. So best case can be the one like where you have already have a sorted set, like the element you need to sort, right, which is already sorted. So in that case, you won't get into this loop. Okay, array of j is greater than key. This condition is always false, right? Because you have already have a sorted set, so elements will be always less. So you don't. Okay, so basically, if in best case, right, you don't get into this while loop. So basically, it will be big of n. Okay, and in worst case means you let's assume that given set is already completely unsorted. For example, like elements are like from reversely sorted. In such case, right, the 8 is first and 7 is second, so it is like reversely sorted. So what you need to do is you need to every time you need to copy that element at the last, and then the picked element has to be inserted at the first place. So that indicated is a worst case. So and that worst case will be like you always hit into this loop, which is goes into n times, and then you have big of n square. Big of n is for this particular loop, and this is for again n. So it is big of n square. I hope this logic is fine for you. There's a few questions coming in. I'm not okay. So big of n user. Okay, I think that was for a long time back. Okay, fine. Okay, so that is all about insertion sort. And let's move to next. Let's see merge sort, how the merge sort works. Merge sort is basically uses recursion in nature. What it does is like it divides array. What we do in recursion, what we do is we take a given a bigger problem, we divide into a smaller problem, and keep dividing into us such that the problem reaches to a base condition, where base condition can be like in this case having only just 2 elements, and then you can compare and do a merge. Once you sort that array into smaller subarrays, and then you reach to a base condition, and then finally what you do is you do the merge. For example, let's take this as an example. What is being done here is that you divide this array into a 2 subarrays, something like this. Okay, left subarray and right subarray, and then apply the merge sort onto that. Okay, and then finally you merge these 2 arrays, something like this. Okay, and you reach to a state where the array cannot be further subdivided. In this case, right, 7 is the one element you cannot further subdivide, and then you call merge on top of it. So this is your base condition. So every recursion has a base condition. So this is your base condition. So what you do here is that you call a merge onto this. So when you are doing merge, right, so basically you compare and do the merge. For example, 7 and 2 you compare and place at the right place. For example, 2 is less than 7, right? So 2 should come here first and 7 will come on after that. For example, it will be like this. So 2 is come first and 7 comes here. And in this case, right, 8 and 5 comes first, 8 will come after that. 1, 6 and 3, 4 in this case. So these things will be merged. So basically you are doing a comparison and merging. Okay, so that is what after first iteration, right? Once you reach the base condition and then you are going on merging the arrays, right? So in the first iteration you will get something like this. Okay, 2, 7, 5, 8 and 1, 6, 3, 4 on the 2 sides. And then again because you have been called from the functions, right? This main array is called this as a merge sort onto this subarray, and then it has been called merge sort onto this, and then you went further and you cannot call merge sort on this, right? What you did now, it has returned merge. So you merged it, and then these 2 need to be merged. Okay, so in next step, that is what happens. It will be merged, and finally the left subarray and right subarray has been merged back to the main array. Okay, so this is how it is. If you see the algorithm, right, it is pretty simple. What I'm doing is I'm dividing array by two equal halves based on the mid element. So low plus high by 2. So I think somebody asked like how can you avoid integer overflow? So that this is the logic: high minus low by 2. It's nothing but low plus high by 2. You can still consider. Okay, so I take a mid, and then what I do is like I call a merge sort on the left subarray as well as merge sort on the right subarray, and then finally what I'll do is I'll call a merge. Okay, and this merge sort will be keep on calling, right, until you hit with low is less than high. Okay, So in this case, right, low and high is one element. So it is not less than high. So for example, in this case, right, so low is not less than high here because both are same. Low and high are both are same. So, and in this one, low and high both are same because 2 itself is a low and 2 itself is a high. You cannot further go. It is not less. So in this case, it breaks the condition and it falls back. It returns actually. So what happens here, right? It doesn't go inside the loop. So basically, it doesn't go inside the loop. So it returns to the caller. So basically, caller is a merge sort who has called, and then this return of this merge sort is nothing but you go and call for the right sub array. Let's assume that right sub array has also returned. Then you basically merge. So merge is the one. Basically, it is an important function into the merge sort, which I think independently many interviews have been people ask on that, like how can you merge two unsorted arrays. So that is important because that is being used in the merge sort. Let's see this merge function how it works. So basically what you have is you have this is the main array what have been passed, and this is the left, which is 0. This is the middle element, or you can calculate the middle elements, because now the way my function is that I am passing the middle element. So that is the reason I have just only concentrating on the merge. And this is the high, which is the last element. So what you do is you take a two arrays, left and right, and in left array you copy the element from 0 to mid, okay, and in right sub array you copy the element from mid plus 1 to high, okay, and the lengths will be based on that. The allocation of the length for this right is based on that. And now what you do is in first attempt, right, what you do is copy the element from low to mid into the left sub array, and in right sub array you copy the element from mid plus 1 to high. So by this time you will have that two sub arrays divided now. I'm sorry. Okay, basically what you are doing, you are copying left sub array and you are copying right sub array. This will be in the left array and this will be on the right array, which I have declared here. Right. And then what you do, you declare initialize some variable like I equal to 0, j equal to 0, k equal to 0, and then here is the logic what you play here. You start with I left less than left dot length, and which is again less than j dot right is greater than j dot length. Sorry, j is right. So basically, what you're doing is like you're basically comparing. Let me show you that. In this case, right? So merge this. Okay, so your I is here, and your j is here, and your k is here. Okay, let's assume these are all empty now. So what you do is you compare 2 with 1. Okay, so and then you realize that 1 is less, so 1 will left is greater than 1, you're incrementing the right array, right? So that's what I'm doing here. So now my I is at 5th place, and so I is at first place, which is array of I is 5, and j is 3 because 3 is not copied. Only 2 is copied. Now again you compare array of I, which is 5, with the array of j, which is 3. Sorry, left of I and right of j is compared. Now you realize that 3 is less, so 3 will be copied here, and j will be incremented. Your j is here. Then again you compare 5 with 4. So 4 is less, right? So 4 will be copied. So you are still I is here only, but your j has incremented. It has went till here. Then now you copy with the left of j with the right of left of I with the right of j. So 5 and 6 is compared. Now you realized 5 is less, so 5 is copied back here. Okay, now your I has been incremented, which is here at the second place, 0, 1, 2. Now you compare left of I and right of j, 7 and 6. So 6 will be copied here. By this time, right, your loop will terminate. For example, this loop will terminate. Let me show you one of the condition, right? So you are this side, right? You are already hit with the right dot length. So this loop will terminate. So you will come out of this loop. But do remember that we have still few items left to be copied. These things here, right? 7 and 8 yet to be copied because you are not copied yet. So what you do, you iterate through because you know that one of the loop is already ended. So the remaining items I need to just copy back. So that is what I'm doing here. Um, so here you check I is less than left dot length. Yes, it is. So what you do, you just copy all the elements until you come out of this loop because already right side already you are copied, and then finally you return the array. So it is pretty simple one. But I have seen many examiners ask this, like how can you merge two unsorted arrays? This is asked because it is being used in the merge sort, and this is how it works. Finally, you will have array something like this after the merging. Okay. Apart from that, there is nothing much in this case because you are calling merge the same function iteratively, in the sense like not iteratively, recursively, and then finally you are merging that thing, right? And I think the merge function is more important here. That is what you need to concentrate. That is the reason I have been I explained this thing to you. And what is the time complexity? I think if you see this loop, right, merge, how the merge is happening. Merge is, if you see, right, we are just comparing, okay. So basically comparing and taking one of the element. So basically what you're doing here is, you're comparing the half element here and half element here, right? So n by 2 comparisons big of n. So which is pretty clear. So merge function takes big of n, but you need to understand what is the how many times you call this merge function, right? If you see the algorithm here, right? So this merge function, you realize that it is called big of n times, right? But you need to understand how many times it is being called. So then you will be able to understand that this you started from here, time complexity you need to find of this array. So what you did was you need to find time complexity for half of the array, and then this is for half of the array, okay, in the first iteration. In the second iteration, this is your first iteration, right? This is your first iteration. You called these two functions, right? And but it goes depth-wise, right? Because merge sort is called, and then further. So don't worry about that. So for simplicity, I'm saying in second iteration, what you are doing here? So you are calling tn by 4 times, right? On this subarray. Again, same n time complexity you need to find for 1/4 of the array, right? So same for here. Sorry, but to write with the mouse. Okay, and this is for the second. This is first iteration. In the third iteration, what you need to do? You need to do it for the t of n by 8 times, right? So if you see, right, it is growing algorithmically, right? In the third, so first it is by 2, n by 2 you did, and second you did n by 4. Third iteration you did n by 8. So basically it is this is 2, right? Basically it is growing with, so in this case it is of 8 to the power 2. So basically 8 here is nothing but your n, right? So you have 8 elements here. So which is nothing but log of n. Bit mathematics here, but I hope you people got it. Let me know if you want me to explain this again, how this you found that it is a logarithmic. I think we already discussed this in analyzing the algorithms. So basically what you have is this merge functions, right? These two merge functions. right, is taking nothing but log of n times. And you are calling merge on top of it. So basically, time complexity of this, right, big of n log for big of n for finally merging that. And I am ignoring the base because base is a constant. So you can convert any base, like given base of 2 to base of 10, we can multiply or divide with some constant number, then you can convert back. So constants are ignored in symplectic notations. N log n. Okay, so any doubts in merge sort and insertion sort, I can cover. I'm going a bit fast because I have a lot of things to cover, guys. And these are all, I think you people might have already familiar with this sorting techniques. My intention going a bit fast here is that these are all simple things. There are a couple of questions I need to cover on this topic, which is based, we know the algorithm, but once question comes, right, we just forgot what is applicable here. So I want to cover that, and I'm giving more important to that rather than these algorithms, because if you Google it or if you just go through some YouTube links, right, you'll understand how the algorithm works. It's not that complicated, but where I need to focus, I'm focusing that. For example, like uh, merge function in merge sort, right? So that sort of things. So I'll go ahead. The next question, based on these algorithms, right? You've been asked a few questions like find inversion in sorted array. How will you, sorry, unsorted array? How will you find an inversion in unsorted array? So what is an inversion? For example, let's given a pair, array of I and array of j. If it forms an inversion of this, so you have an array of 3, 4, 1, 6, 5, and inversion here is that your left element is greater than the right element. Okay, in this case you have inversion 3, 1. 3 and 1 forms an inversion because 1 is smaller, right, and I is, array of I is, this 3 is less. This is the one inversion. You need to count how many inversions are there. So this is the one pair forming an inversion. Next pair is this 4 and 1. Right, 4 and 1 is also inversion. 3, 4 is not inversion because they are in the right order. Okay, and next 1, 6 doesn't make any inversion. 3, 6 inversion. 4, 6 doesn't make, right. So this kind of question being asked. What logic you will apply here? Any guesses, guys? What you will do in such cases where been asked like find an inversion in unsorted array? So basically, you can naive approach. What I'm saying is, what you can do is you pick an element and do a comparison for all the elements which are on the right side of it, right? And check compare with the key element and see how many elements exist on the right side which are less than that. Okay, then you increment the count. For example, you pick the 3 and start comparing 4, comparing 1, right, and you found that 1 is less than 3, so you make the count as 1. Okay, and no further elements. Then add with 1, so you realize that there is a one more element exists, so you add to the count, right, because 1 is less than 4, and you realize no other element exists. Then you check with the 1, none of them are less than 1. Check with 6, yes, 5 is less than 1, then you add the count. And you can iterate till n minus 1th element, because your last element you no need to do because somebody has already covered it. So this is how you can do. This is a naive approach. This will take big of n square. Why it take big of n square? Because you're doing n comparison in every iteration, and you are iterating for n number of time, right? N minus 1 number of time, but that is fine. Like we ignore the count one. So big of n squares of time. This can be further optimized, guys. Like we can do it in big of n time, and that is what this algorithm does. The merge algorithm, right? Merge or whatever you are doing. it does that. But I will leave this as an example. I will share this code and just go through it how it is done. So basically what you are doing is like while merging, right? Basically you are comparing. You see that, right? If element exists on the right side is the less, right? You are copying for the first time. So that left element, I'm incrementing the count. So this is nothing but my count. Okay, so where I have declared the count element here, and I'm incrementing only for that reason, that purpose. And with that, right, I will get to know like how many number of times the element on the right side is the less. And this will be called repeatedly, right? So you will have every time you are returning this result. So this is what I'm returning here. So that result will be merged back to the main loop. By the time you return, right, you return this count, and then that will be 3. If you in examiner, right, if you tell that this is what I'm going to do, examiner will not be happy with this, because this is big of n square. Nobody will consider this solution. This is fine for people with 1 to 3 years of experience, but after that, right, the expectations will be more, and they will expect that you need to do it in a Bigoffian, or I can say like not Bigoffian square time. And you know already this merge sort, right? Merge sort in the merge function already does that in Bigoffian time, and with small modification like declaring one more variable, and um, with a single check, right, you are doing that. So that is what it does. But I want you to go through this function, because if I explain right, you will understand, because so far by this time you might have already understood how that is done. So basically, when you realize that the right side element is the less than the left element, right, you are incrementing the count, something like this. Let's explain that. So basically here, so let's assume this is an example. It's a big example anyway. So now you want to merge this 7 and 2, right? And you realize that 2 is less than 2 is coming on the right side. So increment the count, because you know like 2 is coming, 2 is less than 7. So now your count become 1. And now again you go with 8 and 5, your count becomes 2, because 5 is less. So in this case, no change, right? Now you comes here. So you have sorted array here now. 2, 7, 5, 8, and then again 2 is compared with 5, no change. 7 is compared with 5, so you realize there's less. So again count will be incremented. So it will be now 2 plus 1, 3, right? Again 7, 2 is compared with 8, no change. 7 is compared with 8, no change. So it goes like that. So I'm only considering only on the right subarray, right side, if it is less than the left side. That is how it goes. I hope it is clear by now. I don't want to get into more deep into that. I will leave it to you guys, because I hope you might have already understood so far how that works. And if you see that logic, right, where I have added only for the right, if you realize that left subarray is the greater than the right subarray, means right side you have a smaller element. That means the element exists after that, which is a smaller one. So then only you need to increase the count. There will be some tricky questions. You need to understand that if you know the merge sort, that is not sufficient enough. You need to see what kind of questions can come. So I have taken only one example here, like how you can find an inversion pair, like how forming an inversion. So that is one example. But you don't just understand the algorithm and go for the interview. Just see what kind of questions can come on that. And where this merge function, for example, in this case, merge function, right? If you see the quick start, right, we have a partition function there. So which is more important in the algorithm. So questions can come from that side. Apart from that is nothing, just a recursion. You call the merge sort again recursively. The important thing is the merge function here, and you see merge function how that works, and which is very important. Okay, I hope that is clear. Let's see one more example. Okay, before getting into quick start, right, we need to understand one important concept here. How will you partition an array? Partition is nothing but you divide an array in such a way, given an element, you pick that as a pivot or element to be partitioned. Okay, and you divide array in such a way that the left array is less than that pivot element, and the right array will be the greater than the pivot element. So left array can be less than or equal to, or right array can be less than or equal to, because it doesn't make any sense. Both are same. For example, let's say in this case you pick 7 as a pivot element. I'm giving for simplicity, pivot element can be anything. But some algorithms assume that pivot is the last element. Let's assume here 7 is a last element assumed here. So what you do basically, you place this 7 at the right place. Okay, such a way that the elements on the left side are less than 7, and elements on the right side are greater than the 7. So for example, what you have the finally right, you have 4, 6, and 7 will come and sit here, right? And then finally you have 12, 18, 20, 11. Okay, so this is what your final array means. After a partition, this will be your array. So and 7 is at the right place here. Do note that I'm not this left sub array and right sub array, I'm not sorting it. I'm just placing. That is not the goal of this. The goal is that the element which are all on the right side, right, which has to be greater than the pivot, and left element can be less than the pivot. And your algorithm, right, they may place 6 and 4 also, but it is still fine because elements on the left side are less than the pivot element. This is a pivot, and element on the right side are greater, so which they can exist in any order. So that is not the goal of this. Goal is only thing is that you need to divide partition an array in such a way that left is less and the right is on the greater than the pivot element. Okay, that is the goal. So that is what being used in the quicksort. Okay, so what we do is like, again, this is quicksort is also based on the recursion, and it uses tail recursion. I will explain. I think sometime back this question came, and let me explain that in detail. But before getting into that, let's try to understand what all different algorithms we have that uses does this partition work. Okay, so okay, first thing is that you can do an I partition. Let me erase this. You can do an I partition. What the I partition means is like you start comparing with the pivot element, compare with the compare all the element. Okay, and if it is less, you place on the left side, and if it is greater, you place on the right side, and finally you place the element which you found, right, the ith element. What you can do is like you can compare with 4, and if it is less, you place here. You compare with the 12, it is greater, just ignore it. Compare, then you place 6 here, right, and you compare 18, you just ignore 20, ignore 11, you ignore. Okay, finally you found that all left elements are properly placed, and then increment the I and place this 7 at that place, and remaining element you just copy like 12, 18. This is the naive way, but there are some different what I can say algorithms which does this partition in much better than this. Okay, so let's discuss that. So this is the naive partition. I think it is pretty clear. So you're just doing the comparison, and this has to go for 2 times. The loop has to iterate for 2 times. First time you copy the left element and then place the pivot at the right position where it has to be, and then finally you copy the right side of elements, right? Okay, so there is one standard algorithm, we call it as a Lomoto partition. Okay. Okay, so this is called as a Lomoto partition. So let's see how this Lomoto partition works. So what it does is like it takes a pivot element. Okay, let's not get into the algorithm first. Let me show you with some example, and then we'll come back to this algorithm. Now, if I explain this algorithm, it will be difficult for you to understand. Okay, so let's consider this an example given an unsorted array, and given pivot 7 as a pivot. So what you need to do is you need to place this 7 at the right place. Okay, you need to partition array such a way that left array is a smaller element on the left side, smaller than the pivot element, and the right array will be that right side of this array will be the greater element. Okay, compared to the pivot. So what you do is like you start with the first element 7. Okay, And there are few things you declared here, so which I will just explain. Have that. Yeah, yes. You start pivot as a 7. So I is at the minus 1th element. Okay, so it is just for the declaration purpose. And your low is at 0th position, which what you have passed here. And I am starting J, which is from the lowth element, which is from 0. And your pivot is nothing but your last element, which I have considered here, array of high. High is 6. So pivot is 7 here. So what you do is you start from the 0th element till the last minus 1th element. So which means I don't need to go till the pivot. I can still go till here. That is sufficient because I will be covering all the elements, because I know that pivot anyway I will be placing at the right place, right? So what you do, you compare array of j is less than or equal to pivot. So 4 is compared with the because j is here, right? My j is here. So 4 is compared with the 7. And if it is less than or equal to pivot, right? So what I will do, I will increment the I. So my I is here now. I is at the 0th element. And what I will do, I will swap array of I with the array of j. So array of I and array of j basically pointing at the same location. So basically what I will do, I will replace 4 by itself, the first place in our example. So this is how it will be. So after that, what happens, right? This loop is ended, not ended. So the iteration is over for the first I. First j, so j equal to 0 started with. So now you went again back, so j becomes 1 now, right? So what you do, again you compare array of j is less than or equal to pivot. So pivot is 7, right? So it is not. So 12 is not less than. So what you do, you will not get into inside this if condition. Okay, so no swapping happens. Your j will be just incremented. Your again went back, so your j is become 2 now. And do remember that I is still pointing at 0th element. Okay. So what you do here is now again you compare with the pivot array of j, which is 6, compared with the pivot element. Pivot is 7 here, right? Array of I. Now you realize, yes, it is less. Okay, so what you do is first you increment the I. Okay, so your I is here. Now I becomes 1. And what you do, you swap. Basically, you are swapping 6 with 12, and it will be like this. So 6 will be placed here, and 12 comes here. And your I is at the first place. I is equal to 1. It is not I. This is 1. Okay. And j is now this loop is completed. So this iteration is completed. So your j becomes 3 now. And I is still pointing at the 1. Okay. Again, you do the comparison. You compare with the pivot array of j, which is 18, compared with the 7. So it is not less. So you increment the j. You will not get into the loop. Sorry, you will not get into the loop. So now you again compare array of j with array of with the pivot. So it is still not less. So what you do, you are already ended with this loop, all right? Because you already ended the high minus 1th element, which is this element. Now what you do is you just simply swap two elements, array of I plus 1 and high element. So this is high element, okay, and you are swapping with the array of I plus 1. This is I plus 1. So basically 7 is swapped with the 12. So after swapping, it will be like this, right? So I think this is how it looks finally. 4, 6 and 7 is placed at the right position. This is the pivot element which is placed at the right position, and the right of the pivot element in the array, right, which are all now it is greater, and left side of the pivot element are all small elements, right? So the pivot is basically placed at the right place. Do remember that it is not expectation of the algorithm that it will sort that array. The right side element can be in any order, which is not our goal. So it can be like it can be 20 can come here, or 18 can come here, 12 can come here, any order. But the base condition is that they has to be greater than the pivot element. Okay, similarly, it is applicable on the left side also. But in the example what we picked, right, left side is already sorted here. But that is not the goal. But by this time, I think I hope you understood this, how the limit of partition works. So this is pretty simple. So basically, this is being used in quicksort algorithms majorly. There is another partition called as horse partition, which is uses a somewhat different logic. So here goal is not to place the pivot element at the right position in horse partition. I hope I have that. No, I don't have that. What horse partition does is that it picks the pivot element and it just compares So basically what it does is like it takes 2 pointers left and right, and it compares with the pivot element. And if found that left element is less than the pivot element, then it swaps with the right element. So it does something like that. So let me show you that. Okay. Screen is visible to you guys, right? Okay, so this is what the horse partition. So what I'm doing in this case, I'm taking the first element as a pivot, not the last element. So you can take any element as a pivot. It is up to you. And then what I'm doing is like I'm just comparing the array of I, the start element with the pivot element. Though I'm starting with the -1, but I'm incrementing here. Do remember that. I'm just comparing, and I'm iterating till I hit the condition where I get element which is greater than pivot. So in that case, what I will do, I will just swap that elements here. And the base condition here is that if I is become greater than equal to j. So j is I have started from the last element, and I started from the first element. Last -1, don't worry about that because I'm decrementing here. So basically it is I'm starting from the last, starting from the first element. Okay. And if I hit with the condition in such a way that the element is greater, right, I'm just swapping pivot. And when I am swapping, when I stop here, the place where on the left side I get element greater than pivot, and right side I get element which is less than pivot. So that time I will swap. So I have not taken an example. I hope this is clear. For example, let's start with the 4 as a pivot here. Let's see 12 itself as a 7 as a pivot. Let me take the same example and let me explain to you. Because preparing the slides is not that easy, guys. Because you can see that need to make some drawings and all. And okay, where is that?
Firoj.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Vaibhav.
I have seen into the JDK source, they use dual pivot quick sort.
Right, right. Yes.
And I remember I saw some comment that it is, I mean, the ON complexity is the same, that is n log n, but it is little faster than the single pivot. So,
Single pivot, yes. Yes, Vaibhav. I think as we go much deeper, right, we have a lot of things like even merge sort, right? We have a different function for merging, which can does a better job than big O of n. Similarly, that what my intention here is that just to explain you guys how that quick sort works and what is the pure thing and how the partition being done on that. I'm taking very simple example. And the selection of the pivot is also very important in this case. That also saves a lot of improvement in the performance. How you select the pivot. So there are different ways, and there can be different algorithms as you explained, like dual pivot way, where you can consider two pivots, and in case of two pivots, right, the condition is like the left side of the array is larger element, and the right side of the array will be that left side will be less, and right side will be the higher element. And the two pivots, whatever you selected, right, the middle elements will be like ranging from that lower pivot to the higher pivot, something like that. So basically that is pretty much well suited for larger arrays. But if I start talking about that, right, people will not understand that. It will become more complicated. So that is the reason I have not taken that example. But I will touch some questions based on that, how you partition an array given a range. For example, now I have taken a single element like 7. Based on 7, you are partitioning this array. Let's see if I give two pivots, one is 7 and 10. So your goal is to partition an array such that the left side will be less than the 7. Okay, right side will be greater than 10. And the middle element can exist in any order, like 7, 8, or 8, 7, 9, 10, 10, 9, any order it can exist. So it goes like that, but it becomes a bit complicated if I start explaining that. I hope that is clear, Weber.
Yes, Firoj. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Somebody asked some question. Team sort. Yeah, team sort. I don't know much about that because I have not come across the scenarios where it is being used. it does uses there's a question from Prashant. Is a pretty good question. He's asking like, is there any Java API where we can pass a standard sorting algorithm as an argument so that the sorting is done using that algorithm? Okay, I will cover that. I have example for that. Okay, I will cover that. It's a good question coming at the right time, but just wait for some time. I will cover that. Okay. I hope the Lumito partition is clear for you, and not Lumito partition, horse partition. So basically, what you are doing in horse partition is like, let's see. So what you do is, let's say pivot is 7 in this case. So what you do is you start, let's pivot is some different element. Let's say pivot is 6 in this case. So what you do, you increment left side. You start with the left on the this side and right on the last element. Left is the first element. You keep incrementing unless you hit the element which is less than the pivot. So for example, in this case, you stop here. Okay. So basically it is greater than pivot, right? And 7 is greater, so you move on the decrement the j and come here again compare, which is still greater. So you come here, it is not greater, right? So basically what you do here is like you basically swap these two elements. So finally you will have 4, 6, 12, 18, 27. Okay. But if you start with, let's say 7 as a pivot, you stop here itself. So when you come increment from here, so it is less, so fine, you increment, it is not less than pivot, so you stop here. And it is greater than the pivot, so or you can less than or equal to, so you can stop here. So basically 12 and 7 will be stopped. So what you have is, you have 4, you have 7, and 12 will be here, and your pointer will come to here now, and this pointer comes to here. So you stop here. 6 is anyway less than pivot, so you move back to 18 here, right? And 20, this is 20. Anyway, 20 is still greater than, so you move back here, and the condition you hit both are less than or equal, so you stop here. And as I explained, right, horse partition, right, doesn't guarantee that the pivot element will be placed at the right place. Okay, so that is the condition of the horse partition, and most of the cases we do that. We don't guarantee that it will be placed, because what is happening, right? Many cases that will be used as an index for further sorting. And if you take larger elements, right, which is not required, so horse partition works much better in that case. In Lometo partition, you saw, right, the pivot element will be placed exactly on the middle, in the sense like it got its right place, right? If you see that index, right, 7 is, you already understood that 7 has already at the place where it has to be. So irrespective of the left and right element, and they can be further optimized to get the right position, but 7 has already got. But if you use horse partition, right, it is not guaranteed. 7 is coming here. If you see you just saw that example, right? So which doesn't give guarantee. And many cases we do rely on that. I will cover that example also. Okay, I hope this Lumito partition is clear for you guys. Question: what if pivot taken is 0 or 1? We need a process partitioning. Okay, pivot taken is 0 or 1. In some cases, we don't require pivot as 0 or 1 also. For example, like you have given a binary array and you need to, what you need to do is you need to sort that array. So if you take pivot 1 in that case, right? So all zeros will come before to that and all ones come after that. That means you have selected a right pivot and your array is already sorted in that case. We don't need to do further sorting. But if you have given array where pivot element doesn't, it is a good practice that you select an element from the array itself as a pivot element. Don't select some element which is random. For example, in this case, right, don't select 1 or 0, because 1 or 0 doesn't exist here. That doesn't, it is partition. Partition means you have to partition the array. So that means you need some element which is from that array, smaller element on the right side contains the higher element of that element which you have selected as a pivot. That is the pivot.
Firoz, Ankit here.
Yes.
So what I meant was, let's say instead of 7, it was 0 or 1 over here.
Okay, here itself. Okay.
Yeah, here itself. Then it will come at the first place, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what shall we do? Shall we consider it as a partition, or we need to
Yeah, it is
do?
still partition, right? It is still partition because the pivot for, let's see, it is 1 here, right? That is what you are asking, right? So you
Yes.
one or
Yes.
0, and now
Hmm.
it comes here, right? And
Correct.
your left array is partition now.
Okay.
That partition with the left and right, and one has already reached to its position where it has to reach at the final goal, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
that way it is partition, because partition means if you choose any element from the array set, right, end of the partition, right, it it has already reached to its position where it has to be in the final sort. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so that is what the partition does. So this is what Lomuto partition does. Force partition doesn't guarantee you that, okay,
Hmm.
because it reached to a proper position, but Lomuto partition does. For demonstrating this quick sort, right, I have taken Lomuto partition because it is easy to understand. If I take double pivot and all, it will be difficult for you guys to understand, and even for me also too difficult to demonstrate with example. Okay, but I think I just touched that case where we can have a dual partition and how we partition the array. Okay, so what the quick sort does? So quick sort first partitions based on the pivot element. Okay, so the partition is being done. After the partition, you get the position of the pivot element. Okay, and based on this pivot element, you have partitioned the array. You have a left partition and you have the right partition. So what you are calling, you are just ignoring this element, and you are calling left array till pivot minus 1th element, and right array again you are calling quicksort on that from the pivot plus 1 to high element. So here, right, so you call quicksort onto this left array now. Okay, and quicksort onto this right array, because you know that 7 has already reached to its right position, right? So that is what I'm doing here. So I got the position here. 7th position is this 0, 1, 2. So this is the second position, third element, but position is, sorry, position is third position. But if I started from 0 means it is second element, right? So what I will do is here, I will call low to 1. So low is 0, 0 to 1 element. So the first quick sort will be called onto this, sorry, onto this, and second will be pure plus 1, that is means 0, 1, 2, third element to last element, which is 6. That is what I'm doing here. Pure plus 1 to high, not pure, I'm sorry, it is position actually. This is position plus 1 to high. So that is what I'm doing. This is again being called recursively. So you again further go down and take some pivot here and then further divide this array, and you go, and how long you will go? You will go till this is the base condition. In recursion, is very important to put the base condition, guys. Otherwise, it will be keep iterating in C++ until you will get segmentation fault, and in Java until you hit with the Stack Overflow. Better to put this base condition and take small examples and verify that base condition is working fine, and then you go with the bigger problem. If I given some 8 elements in an array, don't apply this quicksort onto that. Take only 4 element or 2 element first, and then check whether it algorithm works. And then basically what recursion does, it divides a bigger problem into smaller problem, then further smaller problem, until you hit with the base condition where you can return from that. You further don't call the recursion on top of it, right? So you verify with the smaller, so you go from the down. So that is what I did in while explaining that merge sort example, right? Merge function. So I explained with that smaller 2 last element how the merge happens, and then finally it um, goes back and the merge will be called on top of it. Okay. So this is how the quicksort works. So first you do the partition, you get a pivot element, position of the pivot element, and then call quicksort on the left subarray and quicksort on the right subarray, and this will be done recursively. Do I have anything? Okay. No. Okay. If you remember in the merge sort, right, we are also doing the same thing. But what we are doing is we are calling merge sort first, and finally we are calling the merge function, right? So instead of here you are doing partition, in merge sort we are doing a merge function you are called. You are finally merging until you hit with the base condition where low is less than high, and then finally you are merging the 2 elements. If you see both algorithm works in the similar pattern. If you see the limiter partition or horse partition, right, it takes big of n, and this uses recursion, and recursion is based on the pivot element. Let's assume that divided array into 2 subarrays. Further it will be 2 becomes 4, and then 4 becomes 8. It goes further, you hit with the base condition. Basically it goes with the logarithmic way, and which is the sort itself will take a recursion is take a log of n with the base 2, right? And this lower or Hometo partition takes big of n. So it is basically big of n log n. Both algorithm big of n log n only. In some cases, right, in this Lometo partition, host partition will take big of n square also in worst case. Even though it takes somewhat bit complicated in Lometo or host partition, quicksort is does better work compared to merge sort. Okay, because in quicksort is based on the tail recursion. Okay, let me explain what is the tail recursion. I think this question came some time back, and it may be asked in the interviews also. The tail recursion is one thing where the recursion call is at the last. So here, so if you see here, right, you're doing in this method, in this quicksort method, right, your final call will be the recursion call. After that, you don't have anything to do. But in case of merge sort, right, what you're doing, you're calling a merge function finally. You do sort, you call the merge sort, and finally you call a function on that, right? You have something to do at the last. So what happens, right, when you call recursion in the call stack, right? So let's see, this main is called, this is the main function, some main function called quicksort here, and then quicksort further calls quicksort and further call quicksort like this, right? So once you assume that the quicksort is the last here, right? So what generally the compilers are pretty nowadays very intelligent compilers. So what it does is like it just changes the pointer. So for example, like now what? So what you are doing low, you are placing in this case, right? What you are doing low, you are making pivot plus 1, and what high you are making, high you are still keeping same. In this case, high is p minus 1, low is same. So what you can do, you can have a loop here, and the compilers will call just to go to the loop, and they just ignore the last recursion call. So what happens, right? This saves a lot of time, and compilers are pretty recursion. If it is not a tail recursion, so this merge has to be called on the return function. Like once the recursion done, if comes back, right, after this you have something to call, because we have merge to be called, right, in case of merge sort. So you have some instruction to be called. So this state need to be saved, right? To make the merge, right, you need to save this state. Again, this state also be saved, this state also be saved, because you have something to be executed after that, right? So that makes a bit complex here, because you need to save the state of the register. If there is no problem in saving, right, you can just execute a goto statement and just adjust the pointer and call back, right, the loop. It is just like iterative. You are not making you're not using a recursion, you are just calling a iterative function. So that doesn't make any stack overhead on the stack. So that is how it is. Tail recursion is adds performance overhead over non-tail recursion. Like merge sort is a non-tail recursion. This is a, I hope you people understood the difference between. Guys, it is clear. So I can go ahead with the next question, next set of things. Any question from this quicksort and Lometo host partition thing? And how you calculate the time complexity for merge sort or quicksort? Why it is some question? Okay, tail recursion. Okay, I was heading towards that. Okay, I understood it's a bit complex, a bit complicated. Let me explain the master example. Quicksort is a bit simple one. Okay, let's see one example. let's say one example where you need to add some numbers. Okay, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you need to add make a sum of it. So what you do in the function, right? Function int n, right? You basically call n plus function of n minus 1. Okay, so basically 5 is passed, so 5 plus n minus 1. So which is, let's see, you are given a task where you want to calculate sum of first n digit numbers, and n is passed. For example, like 5 is passed in this case. So what you need to do is 5 plus 4 plus 3 to 1. That is the your result. So what you are doing, n plus function of n minus 1. So last function I'm calling is the recursive function here. Okay, so what you can do, what compilers usually does is that they add a loop here. Okay, because this is the last function to be called, right? Am I right? No, right? I was wrong, because you have something to do. So it is left is executed first, and then you need to do some addition right here. So I think this is the wrong example I picked. Okay. Let me see if I have some example here where tail recursion is explained pretty nicely. I think that I wanted to cover with one minute, guys. See if I have recursion. Okay, 1 to n here. Okay, let's take this example, printing an number n, printing number n in reverse. Okay, so let me, yeah, this is the case. So what it is doing is that it is printing numbers from 1 to n, and finally it goes till 1. Okay, so in this case, right, so this is a tail recursion, where if you are printing the element first, right, like you are printing from 1 to 10. So in this case it is this. So where you are, if you pass 10, right, you call 9, and then recursively you will call, and finally when you n becomes 0, right, the first element is printed because you just ended that recursion call, and then finally 2 will be printed, like that it goes. But in reverse order, right, first what you are doing, you are printing the element, and then you are calling the recursion for the ninth element. Then it goes, 7 is called, and then it goes like that. So I hope you people understood this function how it works. So in this case, right, the recursion call is the last one to make. So it is a tail recursion, right? So what generally compilers does is that instead of doing like this, right, so what they do is they adjust the pointer. So when I say pointer adjustment, it is something like this, like n becomes n minus 1. Okay, and then they call some go to loop. Okay, and your loop start from here. Now what you are doing, you are not calling the recursion call. So that means you don't have a overhead on the stack. There is no overhead on the stack. So you don't need to maintain the pointer. You don't need to do anything, because it is like iteratively you are calling the thing. Though for you it looks like you're doing recursion, but actually compilers are optimized in such a way that you're not basically making any overhead on your stack. Okay, so something like this. So you just adjusted the pointer and you call back the loop. So now n becomes n minus 1. So n has been already decremented. It is like a for loop kind of, basically, where finally you are changing the nth element, right? So it is like that. I hope the tail recursion is so basically why you are not putting overhead on the stack. So I think I explained that, right? Putting overhead on the stack is a bit complicated one, because you need to maintain the state of the function, and then once the function returns back, the function completes, right, you need to retrieve the state and start execution after that state, right? So that overhead is not there in case of tail recursion. That compilers will take care, as I just explained here, right? So that is what it is. I hope it is clear, right? Okay, selection sort and bubble sort are bit simple ones. Quick sort anyway I already explained. Okay, let's see quick selection sort how that works. I saw one very nice uh, okay, there it is. Example given in the Wikipedia for selection sort and bubble sort. I'll just go through it. Let's see this example. So the goal here is that to place the least element at the beginning. Select an element and place to a select the least element and place it at the first position. So in this case, right, let's just start from the beginning again. So this is the given array. So what it does is it picks the first element, lowest element, which is 0, and place at the first position. Similarly, in the next iteration, right, it picks the lowest element from the this set, which is the 1, and places at the second position. Again, so it does like that. It selects lowest element and place at the first, and then lowest among the next iteration. So it takes big of n square. Okay, this is a nice example. I hope if you see this itself, it will be more clear. But we generally don't use this because it takes big of n square. For first iteration, it has to go through n number of times. Second also n minus 1. First n minus 1, second n minus 2, n minus 3, like that. Basically, if you add up, right, it will be big of n square. T of n square also. So that way, so the goal here is that select an element, the lowest element, and place at the first. Okay. So that is what the goal. And again, iterate from the next element, select the again lowest of from that, and place to the next position. So, something like that, similar to that. So it works like that. Similarly, we have bubble sort is simplest of all sorting. So in case of bubble sort, it is the reverse way. So what you are doing is, right, you are selecting the largest element and placing at the last. So let me show you that here. So it compares, it bubbles, it compares two elements and move the largest element at the last. So for example, here, right, if you see here, right, 5, 6 compared and 3, 6 compared and 6 moved to the last, 1 and 6 compared. Now again 6 will be moved to the next position, 6 and 8 will be compared. 8 is coming last, and finally, right, 8 will be moved in first iteration, right, you will have the largest element placed on the rightmost side. So which is nothing but in this case, right, if you see, right, in all the element 8 was the largest, and the 8 will be placed at the last, and next you start again the next iteration. Okay, so and again pick the second largest element and place the second last position. For example, in this case, right, if you see the in the last end of the iteration, right, 7 will be placed where the 4 it is now, right. So it goes like that. So just observe that this is the bubble sort. I think it is the simplest one of all the sorting algorithms. Yeah, this will be like, but basically it's bubbles, it swaps with the largest element, and then in the end of the iteration, right, the last element will be moved to the last. So here like this. And now if you see remaining element, right, from 3, 1, 5, 6, 2, 7, 2, 4, 6 is the largest, so that will be moved back to the third last position. Basically it is a bubble. Again, this is also takes big of n square, so it is not pretty much preferred for a large element. If you have very large elements, right, it doesn't lead to a better performance. So but it is a good algorithm to understand what we used for how that algorithms basically like works, right. Simple comparison, like does the comparison, and using two for loops we can achieve this, where we have a big of n square time complexity, right. So those who start teaching algorithms, right, so they start with this simple sorting algorithm because it is easy to understand, where we have a quick sort, merge sort, right, but complexity increases as we talk more on the naive partitioning or Lomitto or host partitioning, right there. But these things like selection sort, where you are selecting the lowest element and placing first, or in bubble sort, you're doing bubble and then finally moving the largest element. Easier to understand kind of algorithms, right? Okay. I think that is what I just wanted to cover. Okay, one more topic. I think this question came: how we can pass your own sorting function to Java to sort. So we have two sort functions available in our Java framework. So you can call arrays.sort or you can call collections.sort. Both does the same job. And let's see like what actually they do. So basically, if you have an integer or a double or float long elements, right, the sorting algorithms works by themselves. Like they sort in increasing order. Like as the lower element comes first and the higher elements go to the last. So the sorting works like that. What we call it as ascending order. Yeah, ascending order means increasing, right? Yeah. So sorry. Okay. So I'll, but the complexity comes into picture where objects are there, right? So object sorting, how you want to do that object sorting. Basically, if you pass to Java, right, it does in some format based on that hash values, right? But you can write your own logic, how you want to sort. That is what I think some question came back sometime back. Right, let me explain to you with one example. So basically, we have two ways what we can sort. One is that you can compare the one object with another object. So that comparison you can write the logic in two ways. Either you can implement your own logic in the same class, the class where you are calling this method, or let's say you have employees or you have students, right? And you want to write compare logic, so comparing two objects, right? So you can implement the logic there itself, calling that comparative function, or you can implement a different class. Mostly different classes prepared in larger organizations where you don't want to change the state of that what I can say, like class, or if tomorrow if you want to change that sorting mechanism, then you don't need to modify that base class. So you can have some different class where that logic, compare logic is implemented, and then you do that comparison based on that. So there are two ways. One thing is that you can implement comparable and then override that compare to method. Okay, so basically how it works, right? It is pretty simple one. You have -1, 0 or 1. So -1 is that left element is smaller, and 0 comes if left and right element are same, and 1 comes if right element is smaller than the left element. Okay, so basically you place -1 first, you after that you place 0, then you place 1. So this is how it works. So what it returns? It returns the element which is to be compared. So this dot get id in any case, and the element which is passed to compare. So o dot get id. Get id is nothing but the id of from that object. Okay, and that is compares. So if it is turns out to be -1, right? So that means this element is, so that means this element is smaller, right? Because you are doing minusing with the larger element, so which is turning out to be -1. If it is equal, then it is 0, or if it is greater than, then it is like 1 will be returned, right? So it goes, or 1 or greater than 1, anything, -1 or less than -1. So I have just taken one example. Okay? So it goes like that. So there is another way, like I was explaining, right? You don't want to touch that base class. So you can write your own class where you can implement comparator. And then you can implement this compare method where it takes two separate objects like student1 and student2, and then you can write your compare logic in that. Let's see one example with that. Okay, so here I have a simple example. So what I have done is like, let's see, I have some 4 objects, 4 employees, E1, E2, E3, E4, and I have placed their employee ID and name. So let's see, I want to sort with based on the employee ID. So this employee class has 2 fields. One is the employee ID and the name. So I just given the ID and name, and I'm passing objects as a name and ID, which I'm just initializing with this whatever variables here. So once you insert into the list, and now you want to sort based on the, let's see, employee ID. So Satish should come first, and then Sovik, and then myself, and then Vaibhav. You want to sort in that order. So what I will do is I will the employee class itself, right? I will implement with a comparable. So this is an interface which has a compare to method, and now you need to implement this method. So the same logic. So compare with the object and the past object. If it is -1, then that will be placed. The current object will be placed first. So it goes like that. If I sort this, so let me run that function. Yeah. The sorting will be done. So because I have implemented the sort function here, right? So compare to function here, which does the sorting. So you can see that IDs are sorted based on that, right? Now let's see if I want to change my compare to function. I don't want to sort with the IDs. I want to sort with the names, right? So what I will do is like, let me comment this function and let me uncomment this. I will implement a method which will sort based on the sorry, I commented wrong method. These two string I have implemented just to print, guys. Don't worry about that. Okay, so now what I'm doing, I'm sorting based on the name. Okay, again, this will be doing with the natural order sorting. So now if I sort with the name, right, I think yeah, I should come first, and then Sovik, Satish, I think Satish should come, and then Sovik, and then Vaibhav is the last, because he's having V. Very rare to find VZ names. Okay, so it has sorted with that. So now what I'm doing here, I'm applying that logic, right? The compare to logic. It is up to you what logic you want to apply. But do remember that it returns as an integer, because it can be -1, 0, or +1. In that range it goes. And based on that, the sorting will be done. So this is how you can apply. The another way which I told was like, you don't want to modify this base class based on your comparable logic. So what you can do is you can write your own separate class, like this, where student comparable as a class which implements this comparator. So remember that we used comparable here, where I can do the logic in the same class. But if I take comparator, right, so it is like I am comparing two objects. So I need to write logic for comparing two objects, which means it is some different class. So I don't have a this here, right, because it is taking some different class. So now what I'm doing, I'm comparing with IDs here. And now when you, again the same thing here, instead of employees, now we became students, same people, same IDs. And now I'm adding into a list. And when you call the sort, right, what I'm doing, I'm passing how I want to sort, and that sorting mechanism, right, what object I'm passing here. See here, I'm calling a new on the student comparable, and this is how I want to compare. So I'm passing that object of the comparable interface. Okay, so this is the class object I'm passing, and I have a logic here how to compare. So let's see, run this and see how it works. Same thing, guys. So it has compared with the IDs now, right? Now I can change the logic. So this is pretty much preferable here, because I'm not modifying the base class. Okay, so I can just modify some third-party class where my logic is there, and I can pass that object wherever I'm doing the sorting, right, I can pass that object. So now what I have done is, like, instead of comparing IDs, I have compared the names, which is a string, and the comparison happens with natural order. So for example, like Fairuz comes, Satish, here interest. Satish and Sovik, you can see that T is coming first in the third, and U is going here. So that is how they are sorted. So Satish coming and Sovik is coming next. I think this is how you can have your, this is the very simple form of comparator logic, comparison, what you can do. But in certain cases where your object is a bit complicated and you want to do makes some different comparisons, like you want to compare with IDs and names, combining both or something different thing. So then you can have the you can write your own logic and does the comparison. I think that is the question what somebody has asked some time back. Some questions are coming. JV Prasad has some question. Can we have a sorting mechanism which can generally take any parameter like name, ID, and get sorted, but we will write only one function? I do not understand this. Can we have a sorting mechanism which can generally take one parameter like name, ID, age and get sorted, right? Only one function. Still, I don't understand this question. Can we have a sorting mechanism which will generally take one parameter like name, ID, age and get sorted, but we write only one function? Same question. Sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you explain how to compare and sort more than two objects? Okay. If you want to compare and sort more than two objects, right? So what you can do is like, for example, okay, one more concept which I think not asked in examinations, but I think what you should know is, right, there is something called as stable algorithm. So algorithm is considered to be stable where it retains the natural ordering. Okay, for example, let's see in case of if you say Lomitto partition or horse partition, right? After the sorting, after the pivot element is identified, your left array will be in the natural order, like how it appeared in the first place, and the right array will be in the same natural order how it appears on the let me show you that example. Okay. So let's see, this is your example. You started with this. This is an example, right? So after your algorithm completes, right? So 7 comes here, right? And it will be like this. So 12 goes here. This is not a stable, right? Because you see here. So 12 was appearing. So stable could be something like this. Let me show. So if you see, if you take 7 as a pivot, right? So you know 7 should come here in the third place. So 4 is here, 6 is here, okay? And 12 should come here, 18 should come here, and 20 should come here. If you see this, it is still in the natural order. 7 got its right place, okay? 4, 6 are in the same place where it appeared in the original array, and this is 12, guys. So 12 is in the same place. I can say in the same place because not exactly in the same place, but in the same order, like 12, 18, 20. They are in the same order. Like 12 is coming before 18 and 18 is coming before 20. They are in the same order. But if you apply Lomitto partition, right, you are basically 12 goes and sit at the last. So let me show you that. So here like this, right? So, but that is not mandatory. But if you goes and finds like what I can say stability of an algorithm, right? This is an important point where you see whether in the first iteration or second iteration your algorithm is stable or not. Similarly, for example, in this case, right? Let's see if I sort with the name, like I am sorting with the name. So Fairoz will come first, and then Satish will come, right? So if I sort this right, my name comes first and Satish goes second, and then Sovik will come. So if you see here, right, here only. So Fairoz is coming, Satish is coming, Sovik is coming. This is still a stable because IDs here, both the names are same, right? Yes, yes, right. But IDs are still sorted. 2 and 10. They do still appear in the sorted form. So this is called a stable algorithm. Can we have sorting mechanism which is generally T, take any parameter like name and get sorted? But yes, you can do that. This is a simple example I have taken. Instead of student, right, here's where is that comparable? So I have taken student here, right? You can, instead of student, you can declare a T here. Okay, and you're sorting whatever you are sorting, right? You sort based on that. So instead of you're calling sort method and this comparator, whatever logic you implemented, right? So instead of student, right, it becomes T here, right? Here also T. And now you pass what is the T you decided you pass, and you don't need to be student comparable now. Student object, you can pass any object. That is how it goes. And now you decide here, like it no need to be student comparable, it can be new T, right? So that is still doable, and that is preferred actually. because I know like I am implementing student comparable. That is the reason. That is what how it is in main larger organization which has been done. Like you just pass that object and which is generic, and then sort based on that. And now I'm pretty sure that I just wanted to show example of student, so I passed like that. Okay. How you okay? I forgot to explain that, and you can pass like this, guys. Then it will become so that probably to sort. Okay. And yeah, whether you want to, yeah, you can still decide that case. Any other question, guys? I hope that is clear. Like it's stability of sorting algorithms.
Firush, like the question which I had was, say you have you need to sort based on a rank, say 1, 2, 3, and also you have need to sort again based on the names. So there are two sorting you need to do, and then you will display it in the color. Say you have R, blue, and yellow. So if it is severity high, it will be in the top, and if it is mid, it will be yellow, and then if it is low, it will be in the bottom. So rank plus name sort. So there are two sorting you need to do. Whether you can do it in a single loop, some kind of.
Yeah, you can still do that, right? This is that all comes into this how you write this compare logic. So basically, I have written a very simple one, but you can have a complicated logic also. Whatever the priority you have decided, right? You can write logic based on that, and then you can, because now you have a complete object. So this is what I have passed, right? It is object, and you are accessible to all the fields which are public from this, right? So in this case, what I have ID, name, and all are accessible. So you can write your own logic how you want to sort based on your like what kind of logic you want to write. You can write. That is yeah, doable still in this compare function itself.
Okay, Firush, thank you.
Yeah, the questions can come from here is that some standard questions what can be asked in the interviews, right? Sort the array in a reverse order. How will you sort an array in the reverse order? There are reverse order functions are available. But what you can do is like you can sort and then you can do the reverse also. Or you can sort the array as even first, then odd numbers later, right? In that order. So first sort the even number and then sort the odd numbers. So these kind of questions can come. So you should know like how you do that algorithm. The next question can come is that how you will find kth smallest element. So let's see that k is given 2 here and input array is 67215. This is the input array. Now you need to find the kth smallest element. So kth smallest is second smallest element in this array. So first smallest element anyway is 1, second smallest is 2. So output is 2. So what you are doing here is, it is pretty simple. You sort the array. So once you sort, you will have 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, right? 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, and then you return k minus 1th element. So 2 means 0, 1th element. So here I'll get 1 first. So I'll get 1 after sorting. I will get 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7, right? So what I'm doing, I'm returning k minus 1. Array of k minus 1. So what is k here? K is 2, right? 0, 1. So I'll return here this one. So that is what your kth smallest element. That is how you can do. So you can do the sort and then you return array of k minus 1. Right? Though it looks a bit complicated for you guys. Once the examiner asks, right, how I can do that like that, but it is pretty simple one. But there is one catch here. The examiner may, once you do this, right, generally we do that. I have done that. I'll ask that don't use the sort mechanism. If you are sorting means you're already, if I can identify, right, 2 is the second sort smallest element, I can just return that. In Lometo part, not Lometo. This is case with what I can say, where we use this Yeah, even in horse partition or even in Lometo partition, where we are partitioning based on the pivot element, right? We can even before sort itself, we can get to know that which is the kth element. For example, let's say if I'm sorting this with the Lometo partition, right? I started a 5 years place, and I placed when I go right, I placed 2, 1, and then 5 came here, and 6, 7 came after this. So I know that the position, right? I want to find the array of k minus 1. I need to find, right? So, and this k is what you know, right? You got the position as 3, and it is the right place. So k has already gone, but I am looking for 0, 1, 2. This is the second place, right? Second position, array of 2. But I am looking for array of 1. So my instead of again sorting everything, right? Because I got the position of k, and I know that the elements which can exist on the left side, and I know which can exist on the right side, and I can figure it out whether this is element which I am looking for. I'm looking for second element, which is nothing but k minus 1. So which is nothing but this element I am looking, but this is not sorted yet, right? So, and I know that the element exists on the left side. So what I can do is I can just perform again this partition onto this element, and further take 1 as a pivot and do 1, 2. And now you know that 1 has came at the right place, right? So again go to 2 and do the partition where 2 is already partitioned. So 2 is at the right place. So you can return this. So what you are doing, you are saving this much of time here. Now you are completely ignoring this side, because you know that partition happening here. So that way, using this Lometo partition algorithm itself, you can return the kth smallest element. Let me show you with an example. Let's see here. What I have done, finding the kth smallest element. Okay. So I will do the Lometo partition. First, I will do the Lometo partition on the given set, and let me assume that my pivot is the last element, and it has returned me the position. So in my previous example, I got it as a 3, right? I will check first. 3 is a k minus 1. Whether 3 is a 2, because k is 3, k is 2, what I'm passing here. Whether position is now I got it as a second position, but I'm looking for the first position, 0, 1, right? K minus 1, k is 2 here. No, right? But I do remember that k is what? K is greater in my case, because position is, it returns as a third place, but I'm looking for the second place, right? So what I will do, I will just change my pointer to right pointer to this, and I will call the Lometo partition again. On now in this case, now I'm calling Lometo partition on these 2 sets. All right. Now I understood. I don't need to further here, so I will call Lometo partition on this. And now after partition, right? Let's see, 1 is my pivot element, and the 1 got at position here, first place, right? And you again compare whether it is the second element. No, 1 came at the 0th element, right? It is not the first element. Means it is the first position, but not the element what we are looking for. So, but we know that the element exists on the right side. So what you do, you change the R to the right element to pivot plus 1. So basically what you need to sort this now. Call the Lometo partition again on this element. And now you know that after Lometo partition done, right, it returns the position of the 2, which is nothing but k minus 1. So what you are saving this much time here. So if you have a bigger array and complicated things to do, right, it works much better way rather than the naive solution which I explained to you, sort and then return the position. Before the sort itself, you can do that. But what is the disadvantage here? But again, if interviewer asks you like what is the third smallest element, you don't have that. Again, you need to do your exercise again. But generally, examiners won't ask that. They will ask like once you show that we can do like this, sort and return the position, they will definitely ask whether you can improve this, because sorting itself take big of n log n, right? So can you do in big of n? So what the Lometo partition does? So that is still doable, right? I hope it is clear, guys. Compared to. Okay. I hope it is clear, guys. Any question on this finding kth smallest element, guys? I can go ahead. Okay. Yeah, I think with the example I just explained here. So let's see, k is 5 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to return 4. Sorry, I need to return the fifth element here. K5 means array of K minus 1. So fourth element. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a 5. Okay. So after Lometo partition, how it will be? It will like this. 1, 2, 3 comes, 4 comes, 7, 5, 6. It can be any order, guys. Don't worry about that. Now you realize that your element, right? What you need to return is 5. So it exists on this side, right? So you're looking for this position, but this position is not properly placed yet. Only this position is placed. So what you do, you call Lometo partition on right side, right? And then you select 6 as a pivot and then sort. And now you got two positions. One is this and one is this. This anyway you have verified. So you come here and you check, but you're looking for this element. So what you do, you call Lometo partition on 5, right? And finally what you have the fifth element. This is the position. You identify this fifth can be placed exactly here, and you know that this element you are looking for, and you just return. That is how it comes. Another standard, I hope that is clear, right? Another standard interview question can be asked is this one, chocolate distribution problem. So let's assume that you have some set of packets given to you, and you need to distribute the chocolates, and the packets has some number of chocolates. For example, like, let's see, I have some 5 packets given to me, and every packet has some different number of chocolates. For example, first packet has 5 chocolate, 9, 7, 45, 52, like that. Now, and one more input is given, like students. So there are 3 students. Okay. So I need to distribute the packets to these students. I can distribute only 3 packets because 3 students are there. One packet need to be distributed, making sure that the difference between the minimum and the maximum should be the lowest one. For example, like, let's see, if I select these 3 packets and if I give to one student, right? So one may get 5 and one may get 9. So the difference will be 4 here, right? Let's see if I selected 5, 7 and 45, these 3 things, right? So one student may get 5, another may get 7. So difference is 2, that is fine, but one may get 45. So the person who got 5 and 45, right, difference is 40. That is very huge. I should try to avoid this. I should take a minimum difference, right? Similar to if you take 3, 45, 9, 7, 45, right? The difference between 7 and 45 is 38. So which is also more. Similarly, if I take 7, 45, 52, right? So maximum is 52 minus 47. So that is nothing but 47, right? So which is also more. I think the best possible scenario is this. I can distribute this for 3 students, 5, 9 and 7. So the difference is low here, 5 minus 9. The maximum element is 9 and the lower is 5. The one student may get 5 and one student may get 9, right? So difference is 2. That is still fine. So that is the minimum. So given set of packets, right? So how you distribute one packet to every student such a way that the number of chocolates, the maximum the one student got and the minimum one student got, the difference is lowest. This is the standard exam, the standard question asked in the exam. So how will you do? So one thing is that first you sort. Okay. So what you do is like you sort. After sorting, I got something like this: 5, 7, 9, 45, 52. So this is sorted. Now you see how many students are there, right? And I think I explained you about the sliding window problem when I discussed about arrays, right? You can use the same technique here. So you pick that number of student as the number of chocolates, number of chocolate packets. For example, in this case, you pick first these 3 chocolates, these 3 packets, and see what is the difference from the first element and the last element here. So here my window is 3, 0, 1, 2, so which is 3. So I'll take the difference between the last and the first element, which is nothing but 4 here, right? And this I will save, and then I will select the next 3 elements. I'll slide the window to the next 3 element, which is 7, 9, 45, and I'll see the difference. The difference here is how much, guys? It is 38, right? It is 38. So I no need to do the comparison for each and everything because now it is already sorted, so I can get a better understanding. Now you select the next 3 element, which is 9, 45 and 52, and you find the difference between the lowest and the highest. So what you have 43 here, right? And now you see which is the lowest one. So lowest one is this window. So this window gave you 4, this window gave you 38, sorry, this window, and this window gave you 43, which is nothing but 9 to 52. So lowest is 4. So you can select this as a window and you can return this as a subarray, which is what you want to distribute, right? 5, 7, 9. So this is okay. I think I had this. Okay. So this is more historically, you can get better understanding. First, I selected the window as number of students as 3 elements in the sorted array. After this is after sorting. Okay. So and the difference I found from the lowest element and the highest element in that sliding window, so which is 4. And then after sliding window, I selected the next element 7, 9, 45, and then I found the difference between the highest element and the lowest element, which is 38, and the last window, which I got the difference as a 43, right? This is 38 and this is 43. And now finally I know now what is the minimum difference, which is 4. So this is the window which I can distribute among the students, right? So this is how I can do. Next question can come is like sort an array with 2 types of elements, right? So they may give you some positive and negative elements, and then they may ask you to sort based on positive elements or negative elements. So you can select pivot anything and sort based on that. And they may ask you to segregate even based on even and odd elements. So you can select pivot anything like. So better to select something like in segregating positive and negative, right? Select pivot as a positive element, and then make sure that least positive element, and make sure that left of it are all negative element and right side of all are positive elements, something like that. And even segregating even and odd also similar logic is applicable. Segregating zeros and 1, take 1 as a pivot, and once you segregate right, you will have all zeros followed by all ones, because your pivot itself is a 1. So 1 where it comes at the position is the first place. From there all other ones will begin after that, and before to that all zeros will come. So that is what the logic you can use. It does look like a bit complicated, but now I have covered so much theory and some examples to you, it looks pretty simple. But once the examiner asks you like how will you do, so sometimes people will blink. But anyway, another question can come like sort an array with 2 types of elements. So what you can do is like given 2 types of elements, you need to sort based on that. So you can take a temp array and then traverse ones. For example, like you need to sort based on positive and negative elements. So what you can do is you can traverse ones to copy all positive element, and then again copy all the negative elements. That you can do if you're not going to take pivot and all, right. Or what you can do is like traverse ones to copy all the this you need to do traverse 3 times. First you have to copy positive element, then you have to copy negative element, then what you need to do is you need to copy back all the element to the original, right? Or you can save time, or you can do horse partition itself, right? And or what you have learned in the quick sort, right? You can do that. You can just keep swapping the element. For example, let's see, I have some -1, 3, 2, +1, 6, 7, -8, some elements are there, right? So now you know that your pivot is a positive element. Let's see, your pivot is a positive element. So what you need to do is you will check -1 whether it is greater than pivot. Positive element is greater than 0, you will check, and you will realize that basically you will check if it is less. So if it is less, you will leave it here. Now you started from here and here, right? So once you realize it is at the right place, so you compare 3 with -8, and then you realize that 3 is greater. So what you do is you just swap 3 and -8, right? So that is how you do. Basically, you stop here because it is hit with this condition. It is not greater than the 0, right? So 0 I am taking because you are sorting minus and positive and negative numbers, right? That is the reason. So you stop here, and then you exchange 3 with the -8. So now you will have -1, -8 here, 2 comes here, and your 3 goes and sits here, right? You have 7, you have 6, you have +1 here, +1 only to write 1 is here. Again you do the same logic, and I think by this time it will stop here because you already sorted negative and positive numbers. This is how you can use, guys. And I think what is the time? I think 12 o'clock. I'm just finishing 1 minute before. I think that is what I wanted to cover. Maybe next week we'll talk more about the recursion. So any questions, guys? I can take it up, though we have just hit with the 12 o'clock time. But anyway. You can unmute yourself, you can ask, or if you find yourself comfortable, then you can write on the chat also, whatever way you like.
Feroz, can you suggest some book or some video series to cover these topics in
I
depth?
think a lot of material is already available in Geeks for Geeks website. So you can just go through it, right? A lot of things are already available on the internet. I don't recommend to buy any book and all. Books will be covered very basic. There is a one book, Cornell, so that you can refer, but that is pretty huge. Now we are looking for people who can utilize in less amount of time, make big impact. So or learn more. So I guess Geeks for Geeks is a good site. Which you people can still refer. And a lot of contents are there in Geeks for Geeks. So you can refer it. Algorithm is there. So yeah, a lot of things are there. I think you can just go through it and you can study. A lot of things are there. All problem array, linked list, stack, use. I'll be covering few of them. And many examples I will be still referring this Geeks for Geeks because they will mention that which interview that particular question being asked on that. So that way, yeah, it makes good impact. So for example, see here, reverse algorithm for array rotation. So if you take this example, right, they will explain and they will tell like which interview which has been asked. Somewhere it will be mentioned. I read that they will tell you that which interview is being asked like that.